Welcome back as we are live from SEC Media Days, broadcasting live from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. This is pretty cool place to be, and pretty cool to talk to this young man, David Cutcliffe, joining us, longtime Tennessee offensive coordinator, head coach at Ole Miss, head coach at Duke, and now with the SEC. And David, I want to get to what you're doing with the SEC, but you were talking right before we went on the air, and that is, this is a cool place to be. And you were talking about some of the people that you see maybe aren't with us any longer, but who are some of the faces that you've seen that bring back some pretty wild memories?
Well, it is amazing. Of course, obviously, I get to see Coach Bryant and people around him. I see players. I walk in and I see Peyton right off the bat, and God forbid they put Spurrier in the same little square. I took a picture and haven't sent it yet to Peyton, but I'm trying to think of the caption, to send to him. I'm sitting there looking, we're going through a great change in college football. And y'all don't have to look now, but I'm looking at a coach at practice in a full suit with a hat on, a fedora hat.
All right, yeah, over my shoulder.
And they're pushing a sled. And so those people probably thought football was going to hell in a handbasket when it changed. And so I think we have to be real careful to give college football a death sentence just yet. So let's work together to maintain some of those same values that coach had that we continue to teach to young people.
Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure. And I think that these changes with the transfer rules, the NIL and all that, they can be legislated. It can happen. I don't believe it's out of control to the point of no return.
No, when I came into this role, I started hearing, we can't do that. We can't win that. And I said, wait a minute, I want to say something. I'm going to think like a coach because that's the only way I know to think. Never told a football team to quit 14 down going into the fourth quarter. Conference games are often won in the fourth quarter. Championships are won at the end of the season. Games are won in the fourth quarter. Let's be our best right now. You can find a way because it's needed to legislate this. I'm a fan of name, image, and likeness. I'm okay with the portal, and I'll explain that later. But name, image, and likeness, listen to the words. It's someone's name and their image or their likeness that someone else is using to make money. They should benefit from that. But that's earned, not a part of a recruiting process and a promise. It's earned. Your name, your image, and your likeness shouldn't be used by others to get wealthy. Okay, so it all started with the onset of video games and certain things like that. So, yeah, and I tell people what becomes acceptable doesn't mean it's right. Right and wrong really don't change a whole lot over decades. Really doesn't. What's wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Still is. So you can adjust this thing. We can win this. I know courts involved. I know, unfortunately, politicians get involved. It's let's go back to the root of caring for young people, caring for players. Look at that perspective. What can we best do for them? It's not recruit them through money. We should try to recruit players that fit our program, that have a belief system in the other players in the locker room. And I'll jump right to the portal. When coaches call me whining about the portal, I say, hush. Your job is to develop relationship with all the players in your program. There's a lot of scholarship players in your program that nobody knows their name. They're just as important. Don't run them off. Those stars are in that locker room with those guys. If they see a coach that's not loyal to his players, what do you expect back in return? You build relationships. The transfer portal is not a problem. And if a guy's selfish enough that he's going just for one reason, money, shake his hand, pat him on the rear and said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. That guy doesn't belong in that locker room. So, no, we're not lost. We can do this thing. But it's collective. We all, as fans, we all as media, we all as players, coaches, have to speak to what's right about college football and then back it up with a value system that matches that. I know that's long, but it needs to be said. I'm not recruiting anybody anymore, so I can say what I want to say. But young people choose people, not places, and dang sure don't choose money over people. You're going to be happy. You're born to family, and then you choose your people. That's your life's path. And I've always used that in recruiting, all the way back to Peyton Manning or anybody else I've ever recruited. You're choosing people in this whole process. You want to surround yourself with people that care about you, trust, love you, and are going to be loyal to you. So I think those values still work personally.
Agreed.
So you've had the pleasure of, and probably not only the pleasure, but the challenge of coaching, Peyton, and I believe you coached Eli. So those are two of the Mannings. Now we have a third Manning coming in,
Yeah.
which is Arch. Out of the three Mannings, who do you think is the best Manning, if you can say so? Because you said you're not recruiting anymore. So who's the best Manning and why?
Well, here is the best Manning is a guy named Archie
Manning.
Okay, let's go there because it's the truth. I was first exposed to Archie as an athlete in person. I was a guest of Alabama in Legion Field when Archie played against Alabama. Scott Hunter was the quarterback at Alabama. Archie was the quarterback at Ole Miss. Archie had 432 yards of total offense in a 33-32 loss. But I'm Alabama's guest, and I'm leaving there like, yeah, Archie Manning, man, yeah.
I did not. You've never told me that story.
Yeah, it's real. And so I'm just blown away at that time by him. And people, now you have this ability to watch YouTube, and Amanda, go watch Archie Manning play. Arch Manning has only played in high school at this point, so he's not in the contest. Okay, and let's not throw pressure at him. God love him. I sent him a scholarship by courier the day he was born to his mom, Ellen, and his dad, Cooper.
Okay.
I was the head coach at Ole Miss, and these were official scholarship papers.
Nice.
I was going to beat the rush, man, So, I talked with Arch early on in this process, gave him my tidbit of advice, and it was just two things. You can imagine I just said choose people. The right people is what you have to choose. And the other thing is just simply have fun and be the very best teammate that you can be, and you'll be fine. Don't try to be something other than a great teammate. And the best quarterbacks are great leaders because they're great teammates. And it also helps you just freely play the game, and God bless the era that we're in, whether it's the NFL or collegiately. How do these guys perform under the telescopic work that people do? Not just media, but fans have this ability to grade film, if you will.
I never pretended to be that proficient at football. I always lean on guys like you.
Well, I mean, but people
do.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna tell you what. I was the best coach in the country every Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I knew everything we had done wrong.
That's right.
Yes.
And I have many early Sunday mornings where I'm like, did I do that? And so I understand the reaction people have to it, but when you start understanding the joy and the value of being in the decision-making process, the tackle, and then you got a count going 40, 39, 38. Can you imagine how much is happening for the quarterback? He's looking, making sure he knows down the distance, the ball left middle, left hash, right middle, right hash, getting the personnel from the sideline. Now he's getting a signal of a play. He's making sure he's relaying it at the line of scrimmage to his teammates. He's now focused in on what's a defense, 3 down, 4 down, any subs on the defense. We don't have a coach-to-player mic like they do in the NFL. And then that clock is ticking all the way through that. I used to tell people calling plays in the press box all those years at Tennessee was like being an air traffic controller. And people would say, well, after a big win, you're going to go party after the game. I said, hell no, I am going home and going to bed.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's exactly right.
But yeah, it's a fun aspect to the sport, is that you got to make a decision. And you ask Peyton, if y'all get him on, he knows the Patton principle. I've always taught that to quarterbacks. Like him or not, George Patton helped us win a war in Europe because he made a decision, and then he went like hell to make sure it was the right decision. A lot of his superiors thought he was making a bad decision. Well, as a quarterback or a coach, you make a decision, and then it's your job to go like hell to make sure it was the right one.
So
And that's a big deal. No, go ahead. I know I'm long-winded.
No, you are fine. You're absolutely fine. On that same note of the quarterbacks, and there are no Mannings at Tennessee now, but we do have Hendon Hooker, and we do have Nico coming in after that.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on each of those? What do you think what do you think they bring to the table?
Yeah, I recruited like crazy Hooker out of Greensboro. He went to Virginia Tech. I tried like crazy to get him at Duke. He's a talent. He's a competitor. He's a better athlete. You know, he's long, but he's a better athlete than people might think. But I think the Josh Heupel's offense is completely suited to his skill set. And I think I know. I watched Coach Heupel and his staff at Central Florida practice. I went down there purposely to see them, and yeah, they're doing a great job with the development of him as a quarterback. And I think we're going to see some exciting things in the Southeastern Conference from a lot more teams than people might think. And I think it's going to be a fun year, and I think he will be a big part of it. Now, any quarterback that hadn't done it yet doesn't get kudos from me. You know, potential is really what gets a coach fired. People start believing often that somebody is all of this or that. How do you know till you get your hands on it? High school football is great. My son's a head high school football coach, but it's nothing like a high school practice. The competition collegiately is amazing. That transition is far greater from high school to the best of the best in the FBS than it is from the best of the best in the FBS to the NFL. So it's very unpredictable, and that's why people say, what happened to him? Nothing happened to him. He just wasn't quite what we thought.
You had we bumped into each other on the way out yesterday, and you had the coolest story about John Ward, about how you reinvigorated Tennessee's offense way back. You know, unfortunately, Tennessee hired you away from me. We were co-hosts on a radio show, and you had just had to go to do this coaching thing.
Yeah.
But if you could tell the John Ward story that you told me yesterday, that was just phenomenal.
Well, the identity, I came in, and the identity coming off a losing season and just wasn't good at Tennessee at the time. The identity of the Tennessee offense had been lost a little. Eric and Clausen had kind of gone back and forth, right. and Eric wasn't what he needed to be, and I thought we might have been a little fat at receiver at that time, even Meacham. And I'm not fond of fat receivers. Okay?
No, I know.
So
something about fat receivers.
Yeah, it just
and really short offensive linemen.
But I also had noticed we had recruited all over the place, and I want them to understand the tradition. I only told you part of the story. Another thing I did was on a Saturday morning, I had them all meet me at the facility at 5 a.m., and I didn't tell them what we were doing. I was good to them. Got a lot of breakfast sandwiches and had it ready. They had a bus waiting. And so we took off in the dark. They didn't know where we were going. I knew a place up in the Smokies that I could hike to that had a great vista. And we went up there and got out of the bus and hiked together. And they're like, what the, And we get up there and we stand. And I said, guys, I made it up, of course, but I said, this is Rocky Top. I want you to understand what Rocky Top is. Look out at this. When you hear Rocky Top, it's not just a song. It's got to mean something to you. And then we spent the day and we had a great meal. Then we went back and I took them to the stadium and I made them walk up every stadium step to the very top. And the Vols sign was up there. Just back up, I understand.
It is.
I'm happy about that. My son Marcus, I hope, had something to do with that. But we get to the top, and I told them every Saturday, people from all over this state and area make that trip you just made. And I said, now we're looking at Rocky Top again. Look down on that field. They come from everywhere to watch you to perform at your highest level. And then I did the John Ward thing, where I love to hear John Ward's voice, running all the way to the state capitol, Willie Galt.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I called John and I said, John, I need a favor of you. I've taught the team a little bit about who you are, shown them some of the clips, but I want you to come in and voice over some highlights of these guys making plays and do it with the best John Ward. Give him 6, touchdown Tennessee. And I had these dog tags made that just said touchdown Tennessee. I can't remember what I put on the back of them, but it had the checkerboard end zone. And so we sat in there and we played the highlight, and they were like, wow. They were fired up. Then John Ward comes walking into the team room, and we pass out, and I give him a dog tag, touchdown Tennessee. He talked a few minutes in that great voice. I think of John in Tennessee football and then natural gas. Anybody's been around there a long time. Yeah. Nobody could say it like he could say it. But it was a great moment, and I love all of those young men that played on that team. And as you know, we had 2 really fine years during that run, and Eric Ainge had a heck of a run there. And that's what you got to love about it. We can't lose tradition, and we can't lose a love of the sport. We have the greatest fans in the country in the Southeastern Conference, and certainly Tennessee included. We always told them on bus tours back in the early 80s, hey, Neyland Stadium becomes the 5th largest city in the state of Tennessee on game day Saturdays. And then we used the World's Fair was here in 1982. On a game day Saturday, there was, I forget what number we threw of people right within the stadium structure. So let's not let that be forgotten. I think that is important for young people.
Well said. Lastly, just talk about your role with the SEC. What is your goal? What's the SEC's goal in you guys joining together?
Well, when they called me, it wasn't anything I was thinking about doing, but as I told them I wanted to get face-to-face, and I met the commissioner face-to-face. I'd known him, but I met his staff and his team, and I was really impressed with their commitment to excellence. And what it is to try to strengthen the commitment to excellence. I've got great relationships with all 14 coaches that were there before this role. The relations part of it is working not only with the head coaches. We have 100, and I reminded our staff, we got 140 coaches in this league called assistant football coaches that can't be forgotten in a difficult era and time to recruit, et cetera, that represent our fine institutions. We got players. We got operations people that are so important to all of this. So I'm going around to the campuses and I'm meeting with all of those groups. I go to the equipment room. I love to talk to the equipment people. You know who knows more about a program than anybody else? The guys in the equipment room.
It's true.
The equipment room is always by the locker room. They know what's up with the players. When I was coaching, I always had me a little office near the equipment room, because if I needed some real advice, that's where you go. They say, hey, coach, the players are a little bit down, da-da-da-da-da. I can pick them up. They know. They don't hide things from those guys. So I'm very much in that type of relationship, but I'm also kind of inserting myself legislatively, as you go up the food chain in the NCAA, you get further away from anybody that's ever had boots on the ground, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
ever worked with a student athlete. I think I can give a perspective so we avoid some of the laws of unintended consequences that come from these decisions. And I'm not going to be quiet. And I told the commissioner, I'm going to think like a coach. I understand the relationship of the administrative side of it. I've served on a lot of committees all during my tenure as a head coach. So, some small way, maybe we can make a difference, Dave. And we all know there's tweaks needed right now. And it's time to win in the fourth quarter. And I like that. Don't you love competing in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. I'm glad there is a fourth quarter for all of us. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's fantastic.
and you mentioned it about your own health circumstance, but when you're given an opportunity in the fourth quarter, and I've always told players this, 20 down, 14 down, when you get 15 new minutes in that quarter, oh my gosh, celebrate.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that.
We don't remember games that were blowouts. Oh, we remember fourth quarter comebacks. We celebrate the players. And then, like I've always told coaches, I love it because you think players, not plays, when you're in that circumstances. Big time players make big time plays in big games. So think players, not plays. And right now, I'm looking for every good player I can find to help us compete in the fourth quarter with what we need to do with college football.
I said last thing, one more thing. Have you worked it out with the SEC that you can maybe work with Arch Manning in the offseason? Is that something in the – oh, come on, David. You know you're going to.
I have done some work with Arch in the past.
I know.
And I do pray for him, David. I can do that because I think he's got so much that's being looked at him. And that's not easy, folks, for anybody. He's very talented. I can tell you that from working with him. Has been for a long time. It's very obvious. But he's going to be happy with his choice. I believe that. That's a big part. He's certainly not choosing a path of NIL money or anything else. He's putting himself in what he thinks the best position it is to be the best player, but more importantly, play on a national championship team if he can.
I think financially the Mannings are doing okay, right?
I think they're doing all right, although I still pay for Peyton and Eli's food when we go out to eat. I take the check. I hadn't figured that one out, but Archie says he's the same way. So I'm just trying to keep the receipts to maybe one day when I'm destitute, hey, guys, please pay me back.
Just send it to Omaha Productions.
There you go. You got it.
David Cutcliffe, former Tennessee offensive coordinator and one of the best co-hosts that I've ever had, quite frankly, in radio, right up there with Amanda LaFratta. More after this. I'm Dave Hooker. This is a production of Off the Hook Sports.